Hey there guys, I am the Six Machine and welcome back to another Warhammer video. So following on from the Sons of Horus yesterday, one of the main driving forces of the Heresy, it is time to look at the Legion that really started it all off, with a devotion bordering on obsession to venerating the Emperor as a god and to spread his word throughout the galaxy. It was the punishment meted out to them by the Emperor, as well as the subtle whisperings of both Corferon and Erebus that really led Lorgar and the Word Bearers into devoting themselves to the Chaos Gods and then also eventually turning Horus to their dark devotions as well. So today, let's take a look at how the Word Bearers are looking in the new Age of Darkness game. They arguably had some of the weaker Legion traits and abilities back in the first edition of the Heresy game, so it'll be interesting to see if they've gotten a boost to showcase just how important they are to the setting. And with that in mind, their trait is, I guess it's not terrible. It probably has a lot more use than I'm giving it credit for, but as you can see, what the True Believers rule does is that not only can a model with this rule never have its leadership reduced below 6, but also if you are in a combat which results in a draw, then a unit with this rule count as having won it by 1 point instead of it being a draw. Obviously, if both sides have this rule, it still just counts as a draw. So, yes, it does have some uses in helping you get around effects like fear, or if you lose a combat by a load of points and you have to take a potentially difficult leadership test, it's going to help you stick around a bit longer. But when you think about it, even just being 6 as the limit you can drop down to, that's still going to mean you're going to fail more often than not, with the average on 2d6 being 7. So whilst this does protect you somewhat against those leadership shenanigans, it's not exactly going to do a huge amount all the time against all those effects. It is still very possible for your opponent to mess up your plans with things like fear or other leadership effects and really ruin your game plan. It will be harder for them to do so, and you won't be hit as badly by those effects, but it's not like you're immune to them completely. You will still suffer against armies that focus on that leadership debuffing style of play. The winning drawn combats is again nothing bad. It will help in some marine on marine style fights, but it is, in my opinion, honestly quite rare for a fight to be a complete draw. There's always one side that ends up fluffing their roles or just has a much more powerful, much scarier unit in the combat. So it's likely that one side is going to flat out win by a good couple of points, which will mean that this doesn't come up at all. Sure, it will be great in an ongoing combat where you've got, say, 10 tactical marines against 10 tactical marines, because then you are a lot more likely to have the same kind of damage going into each other, so it may well be a draw. But if one unit is getting a charge off, if something like the Blood Angels or the World Eaters are charging your lines, they are probably going to win that combat anyway, so it won't get to be a draw, and this rule will never come to effect. I just can't see it making a noticeable difference a lot of the time when you're in combat. So overall, I do think that unfortunately, this trait seems to be really very niche, like more so than any of the others we've seen, and it doesn't have that raw power that traits like the Space Wolves or the Blood Angels or the World Eaters have, or in fact any other Legion has in comparison. Theirs gives a lot more upfront power, whereas yours is a lot more reactionary and requires certain conditions to be met in a way that the other ones don't feel quite so restrictive on. It just strikes me as being a very underwhelming trait, if I'm being honest. The other thing they show off in the article for the Word Bearers is a new weapon, a Psychic Flamer style weapon, which is called a Hellfire. Well, I think it's just called Hellfire actually, but it is a psychic weapon with a Flamer template, so you can cover a good amount of enemies, and it is Strength 7, AP 4 with Rending 6+, and the Deflagrate rules, so it can do quite a bit of damage. Deflagrate, as far as I know, still means that if you cause an unsaved wound, you generate an extra hit, so this could potentially do a large number of hits against something like a blobbed up squad of Marines. But, and here's the big thing, it also has a rule called Psychic Focus. So before you make any rolls to hit, you have to take a psychic test. And if you pass, fine, you can fire this as usual. But if not, you suffer a perils of the warp and you can't use this gun. I mean, it just, what? It seems like a really, really bad version of Gets Hot. And whilst, yes, you will pass your psychic test more often than you will fail it, it's still not exactly a great weapon design when you can potentially hurt or kill yourself just by trying to use it. It's not like the risk reward is all that great either, because it's strength 7, AP 4, and deflagrate, which is nothing terrible to be sure, but it's hardly the most terrifying weapon going. Sure, you will wound Marines on 2s, but they're still getting their full armor save, so even if you cover a good amount of them on a template, you're probably only going to kill 2 or 3 of them. And, the risk of taking a Perils of the Warp for that, just for me, doesn't seem worth it at all. If you could maybe choose to do the psychic test, and if it passed, you got a buff, maybe it went up to higher AP or had some extra rules, that would maybe make it a bit better. But it's just that you have to take that test to even use this weapon. I would much rather have a plasma gun or even just a flamer or something and not risk that psychic test failing when you need it the most. It just seems so oddly bad compared to what we've seen for other legions. And I mean, yes, I know everyone hates Erebus, everyone hates the word bearers, but they seriously deserve some slightly better rules than what we have seen here, I think. So there we go, the word bearers. They are definitely the weakest of the legions that we have seen so far, in my opinion. But what do you think of them? Are these rules maybe better than I'm giving them credit for? Or do you agree with me that the word bearers are going to once again be the red-headed stepchildren of the legions? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe for more Warhammer content from me. But until next time, I'll catch you later, guys.